Hey guys, Leah Michelle, it's March 31st, 2017. It's a Friday.
You don't actually know what the story is about. So
I don't know.
Twitter
This one I don't know.
exploded yesterday. I was tweeting away, and I just kept seeing these things about Mike Pence and his wife, and they wouldn't eat, he wouldn't eat with women, and suddenly he's the biggest sexist man in the whole wide world. And I was like, what is this story?
Okay.
So what it comes out that in 2002, the Washington Post on Tuesday, a Washington Post profile about Karen Pence, wife to Vice President Mike Pence, surfaced an intriguing tidbit that was first revealed to The Hill in 2002. That it's this: Mike Pence will not eat alone with a female. That's not his wife.
I like
He
that.
will also not be in a place where alcohol is served, and his wife is not at that venue. Very interesting. So he will not go to any event serving alcohol. Now, I thought to myself, no big deal. That's kind of an interesting thing. But Twitter exploded. Literally, you're split. Like nobody's in the middle. I mean, it was either people saying, "Wow, that's great," or, Mike Pence is evil Satan man. Okay.
Because he won't eat alone with another woman that's not his wife.
Because the way that they kept spinning it was that he would never, ever
sit down and eat at a table with another woman?
Yeah, exactly. Or his idea is that he won't ever hire women because he's a sexist and all these things. So Matt Walsh actually got a whole HuffPost article about him.
Right.
And he had said, seriously, what's the appropriate reason for a married person to go out for a meal alone? That's the whole point, is out for a meal alone. We have to put it in context because everybody kept, like, it was like some sort of magic trick where they just kept throwing things out. Like, what about this? And what about this? No, he literally said he's not going to go out to a meal, to lunch or to dinner alone with somebody of the opposite gender. I think
it's very admirable.
Some people came up with solid reasons. What if you're both hungry? Is coffee adultery? Is soup? They kept spinning it. You know what I mean? Like he was saying that if you did, then you were committing adultery. Or the biggest one was people were saying, oh, people just can't hold in their sexuality. Like they're just going to jump on each other for lust. That's not the issue. People don't understand the mindset of moral people.
Right.
And I think that's
the issue.
You don't understand the mindset of people. There's a scripture. The Bible says to flee all appearances
of evil.
Mr. Matthew,
Kansas,
he lives in our basement. He is a friend because we flee all appearance of evil. It might be someday. There might not. There might be a friend, or he might not live in the basement. But he might be a hermit. But we flee all the appearance of evil. It's a really odd situation that we have here. We know it looks weird. But here's the great thing is we're in the 21st century. Nobody cares. But we care.
It was a really big deal.
So it was we care.
Right.
I don't care what people think about me. I care what I think about me.
Right.
I care what God thinks
for
about
those
me.
that don't know, I mean, our mother lives here and our uncle lives here as
You
well.
have to go back to see some of the Virgin Diaries because...
if you guys have not watched, if you guys are our subscribers and you have not seen the Leah Michelle Virgin Diary series, you need to watch them.
Is it number 5 where he says he's in the basement and needs to be remodeled?
And he's like number 5.
An evil eye Uncle Jack. What does he say?
No funny business.
No funny business. Evil eye Uncle Jack. He's gonna know about it. He's gonna know about it.
Not evil eye.
Eagle eye Uncle Jack. He's gonna know about it. And Sydney, no funny business. It's just that's how we deal. That's
the
how we
point
deal.
is that we always tell people don't try this at home because you, as a Christian who Lee and I are both saving ourselves for marriage. A lot of you ask about the rings that we wear. These are promise rings.
They do.
Yeah, several people have asked about them. They think we're married. We're not married. We're married to Jesus until we're married to our husbands. Future husbands.
That's a weird thing. I never liked when people said that.
Weird thing. Anyway, the point is that you just don't. It's not done in a moral society. You know what I mean? You just don't. You wouldn't ever have a male friend stay overnight, or sleep on the couch. It's just because of the way that it looks, and not just because of the way that it looks. It's just you just don't do it. It's not appropriate, and that's the way that Leah and I live our lives. You know what I mean? So,
I'm not telling you that you can't, and that's
and that's the difference. I don't think that Mike Pence ever said, or his intent was even, nobody
they were
should ever do
explaining
this.
that they have this rule in their marriage.
And I love this rule in their marriage.
But then people say, do you tend to find your encounters with women fraught with irresistible sexual fantasies or only during meals? Now, but somebody else made a really interesting said a story. She was saying that there was a man that she was talking to about Jesus, and he was not a Christian, and he said, I'd love to go out to a meal with you and you can tell me more about Jesus. And so she says, well, you know, my husband's, he's a believer and he knows about the Lord, so how about we all go out to dinner together? And he says, no, I'm more comfortable just you and me.
Right.
And she's like, no, if you want to go out, it's me and my husband. And he didn't want to.
Right.
So there is that that barrier there, and it just it makes sense for them. And that's what they choose to do.
Right. And why should anybody ever come out and nitpick at the moral stance of somebody else? This doesn't even make any sense
Because
to me.
these are so off the wall. The way people took it, little known fact, if you even look at a sandwich in the presence of a woman who isn't your wife, you go to hell. It's in the Bible. Once saw a married woman who walked into an Arby's burst into flames. Scary stuff. I'll probably get heat for this, but I don't even watch The Bachelorette with my wife and her friends. What if I tempt them? And it's just things that my boss took me out for lunch to discuss my career. Pence is a man in power who has to treat males differently from females. And this is where and I really want to do, today is going to be our feminist opening up. One thing leads to another. We really have to, as a society, understand that there is a difference between males and females. And the idea is that when you take away that there is a difference between males and females, then you get this really weird society that's actually not very enjoyable to live in.
Right.
And people aren't really happy. And what the feminist movement has done, and I realize we have some feminists with us, but to recognize that a giant chunk of the feminist movement is man haters.
Right.
It was interesting because I was Googling YouTube and Google have had major advertisement pulled in the past week. Huge, and it's hitting a lot of YouTubers and even people on Google. Just Google itself, searches and things like that. I don't know if it's in the searches themselves, but on pages.
Right.
And because these different advertisers, thank you UK, because it was started in the Times in the UK, that that advertisers were told that their adverts were being shown on extremist and hate-filled sites. And we've noticed a huge crackdown just since we started that if you put maybe just the word Israel in your title, you can't monetize that because even the word Israel is not advertiser friendly, which I find incredibly interesting because you can put France, you can put Hungary, you can put Poland,
right.
You can put Iraq or Iran in the title if you don't put terrorist next to it.
Right.
If you put terror next to it, you don't get monetized. But Israel is for us at least, you can't monetize it.
Right.
And so they're trying to crack down. Well, in Australia, there's this men's group men who have sworn off women because of what feminists have done to society.
I don't blame them.
Well, advertisers found that their adverts were on this hate group and went all up in arms. And so now, Google and YouTube and people are really gonna, Mike Dice was doing some things. Alex Jones, they've all done, Paul Joseph Walton, they've all done videos showing how they've been unmonetized because of this agenda. And the point is, and what I wanted to point out was that if you're against feminism in any way, then suddenly there's a push against you. So I want to recognize that while there are two kinds of feminists, and so you've got the Melania Trump women empowerment because women are weaker. That's just
and they're
a
being
well-known
brutalized.
fact that women are weaker in general than men. And that's what biology, and you've got everybody who wants to ignore biology and ignore the fact that even if you take testosterone blockers, you don't change your your bone structure itself.
Right.
So you've already, you're still going to grow to certain heights
Right.
at sometimes, and a lot of these women it's so confusing, take testosterone blockers after they've already grown to full height and stature.
Right.
So they do lose muscle mass, but their bone structure and stature are still there.
Women.
Right. And so it's happening. We haven't done this story, but a lot of men are becoming female athletes.
Yeah.
And so you've got this one guy was making the rounds because he started taking testosterone blockers, and he was like really good in men's volleyball, and now he plays women's volleyball. And how he wants to, get up in that. And there's like a lot of people doing track and field. So anyways, it's kind of on point, but not really on point. But the point is that there's a huge push right now against anything moral when it comes to the differences between men and women.
Well, it's so simple. You guys already know this, but just for a couple of examples, it's kind of like feminists that a man goes to open the door, and then she's like, "Well,
I can open
my own door." You know what I
Right.
mean? It doesn't even make any sense. It's this stupid hypocrisy because they play the woman card when it's convenient for them. It's really unfortunate. So we're gonna.
Well, and then one more thing I wanted to point out that I thought was incredibly interesting. You have all of the leftists going to Bill Clinton's aid, right? We know what he did. But they're ripping Mike Pence up because he doesn't want to eat a sit-down meal alone. He's
With
not
a
going
woman
out
that's
to
not
dinner or out to lunch. That's
his
it.
wife. Why is that even a problem? I mean,
Because they have
It's
to. It hurts their
insanity.
ears to hear anything that's pure or wholesome. That's
Yeah.
it. The bottom line.
Oh
It's
my
a
gosh.
wholesome thing. It's what they've chosen in their marriage. And here's the thing. It's like, well, you can't tell people what to do in their bedroom, and you can't tell homosexuals not to get together, and you can't do this, and you can't do that, and then you can't do that. It's just.
well, do you remember when John Tesh was on the O'Reilly Factor and he was talking about and he was older obviously then, and he and his wife were saving themselves for marriage. And we mentioned this in our Virgin Diaries. This goes back a ways, but and Bill O'Reilly says to him, "Well, are you really sure you should be saying that in front of everybody? Isn't that something that should just be kept between you and your wife?" Okay, and I said this in the Leah Michelle Virgin Diaries, but it bears repeating. That, you can go out and you can talk about sleeping around with all of these different people. You can talk about how you live this, life of lust and whatever, and being a big player. And you can listen to all these rap songs and all this stuff. But if one person comes out and says, "I'm saving myself for marriage," or "My wife and I are saving ourselves for marriage," and you should say, "Listen, that's a
Because
good thing."
it might make people feel bad
guilty.
about themselves.
Yeah. But I guess it doesn't make anybody feel bad about themselves if you just talk about, sleeping around with a bunch of people because, well, everybody just does that. So that's not going to make, because you can't say anything that might make anybody feel bad.
Right.
But then you can watch shows like The Biggest Loser where they come out and they've, shed 400 pounds and they look great. And then you're like, "Oh, fabulous for you." You're not going, "Well, the poor fat people, they can't watch that stuff because it's going to make them feel bad. They're fat and then the skinny person went out there and, that's kind of it's so retarded. Okay, all right. This wraps this up?
Yeah.
Okay, this is the end. Not the end. We have more feminist stuff for you. We're signing off now. This is Leah Michelle, Resistance Chicks.
Stay with us, Rosie T.
It's not a conspiracy theory if it's the truth. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks. Ring the bell for notifications and find us on Facebook and Twitter.
I was cold all alone. No place for home every day. So afraid, but you called my name.